Hey, it's TDA and welcome back to Oddsparks. Last time around I built a whole bunch of tracks and logistics and a lot of other stuff. And honestly the game is starting to really grow on me at this point. Now, there's a couple of things I want to do. First and foremost, I've had this quest. Where is the quest? I've had this quest forever to make Scouty Sparks and Hauling Sparks. And I've not done anything with that. Now, in order to make these things, we only need some dowsing stones and some wheels. We have plenty of those in production now, so let's find out what these things actually do. Well, I'm on my way to the Scouty Spark Shrine, and there's a couple of these Squillicans in here. These are not very friendly by the looks of it, so we're gonna have to deal with it at some point. I'm not entirely sure how we do that, but this Scouty Shrine activates right away. And we have one of those available now, and of course we get that. Now, what does this do? It's main thing is its defense. Apparently, it has no offense whatsoever. A one-use special spark that travels towards the direction it's thrown at and reveals the area it travels through. Okay, not entirely sure why I can't just do the exploring myself, but that is how it works. It is fairly cheap to make. It's just a stumpy spark and some dowsing stones. I'm not entirely sure we need to, automate these. I might be wrong about that. But let me try one of these out. So let's see. I got one, right? I don't know what it looks like. Oh, it's this fishy thing. Okay. Well, it looks adorable. It's like a flying telescope. Okay, so let's say I am over here. I'm already like at the edge of how far I can go. I don't know. How far do we need to throw it? Do we need to throw? Can it move up? Let's find out. So we throw it here, and then it just starts moving. Okay. Ah, okay. So it makes like a slice through the fog. Ooh, this thing goes really, really far. I mean, it doesn't. I was about to say it doesn't really explore that much. Whenever it ends, it seems to end in kind of like an explosion. Huh. Again, not entirely sure I need this, but I do enjoy the creativity of the sparks. I mean, this is definitely a thing that if I'm just gonna walk here and then just throw a whole bunch of these at the side, I can explore faster if I want to bother making the sparks first. Anyway, let's make a bunch of these. I set up this manual facility over here, so just with some dowsing stone brought over here, a couple of these crates filled with stumpy sparks. That is going to already make about 100 of these. I honestly don't think I need that much, unless I need them for a quest. So for example, you can see here I need 180 rocky sparks, which I also haven't really fully automated, mostly because I have barely needed them. But, you know, just to be prepared, let's make a few. We are gonna grab at least one, because we need one for the quest, and now let's find where we can make the hauling sparks. And of course, that is on the complete opposite side of the map, so this is definitely the point where I'm starting to think we might want to optimize, or automize, I should say, some of our teleports, because, as you can see, getting around is also not that trivial. I've switched, by the way, from using ladders to actually using elevators to get around, because that's just easier to build. These will snap into place in a lot more locations than the other versions will. And did that move? Yeah, I was about to say that moved. There's something under there. Ah, well, it looks angry. That's an interesting creature. A rock Taron. Okay. Anyway, not really what I was here for, but it's interesting nonetheless. A rocky hauler spark, I mean. Okay, the hauling spark has been activated. We are gonna turn that into a thingy. Ooh, look! This has high defense, high offense as well. So that's interesting. It does impact damage, so that's similar to the rocky sparks, but these are actually the best offensive units we have so far, assuming impact damage hurts whatever we're trying to attack. But it has a 4 capacity, so that is twice as much as a carry spark. So that is kind of awesome, to be honest. Now, how expansive... Oh, these are big sparks. They use up both lanes of a path? Okay, so we need to have them run in circles like a train. That is interesting. Okay, that is actually very interesting. So what do we need to make those? We just need some wheels, and we need 2 carry sparks. So we are basically doubling up on those. These are probably in the category that we do want to completely automate them. Not entirely sure how I'm gonna do that, but let's first start making some. There we go, just a manual setup for now. I really need to start automating a couple of these things, but look at how huge these things are, by the way. It's like a whole minecart. I wish I could kind of ride these things. I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually something we unlock at some point. But anyway, yeah, these things are kind of awesome. I do think I want a mix of these things and these, because honestly, this is complete overkill for a lot of the transport requests I have. I mean, honestly, this is already overkill. I just used the Stumpy Sparks, so that means we're going to have to start carrying around a lot more diverse quantities of these sparks. There's actually a solution to that as well, but we'll get to that in a second. First things first, let's turn in this quest so we can actually start making scouting and hauling sparks if we would want to in our own buildings. And let's see, what is the next quest that we're going to get? Ancient supports. I think we should rework the small waybuild so traveling in and out of the mountains becomes easier. Okay, so these things need to be built on those specific plots, the ancient supports or ancient workplaces. I'm not sure what they're called, but anyway, we can easily unlock this because we have plenty of pellets and stone plates. So the work locations in the mountains are the larger versions of these things that we've seen so far. We haven't actually built anything here, but as you can see, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can start building. However, there's also these hostile creatures around. And it seems we have a quest for that. So we have a quest for the Animal Scarer, which just requires a couple of Mantis Stag antlers, which we have plenty of to begin with. And yeah, apparently this thing is supposed to, you know, scare away the animals. Now, I actually don't know what this thing does. So let's see where it is. It's not in this part of the building menu, apparently. We have medium waypoints unlocked, sure. Ah, there we go. Oh, okay, so we are actually going to need some leaves in the box as well, so we can easily build these. And 2 of these Mantis Stag items per scare is actually quite a lot. I have a couple of them, but I don't have like dozens of them or anything like that. It prevents creatures from spawning nearby with a strong scent. Well, as it turns out, I actually have more of these things than I thought, but 30 of them is going to last me for a little while. And, oh yeah, okay, nice. So you can actually see the range on this thing, and honestly, it's pretty big. So this will allow me to prevent enemy units from spawning. Now, a lot of the units in the Forest Zone, or I think all of the units in the Forest Zone, we don't mind spawning because this is just free resources running around. But as you saw before, in the other zones, well, other zone I guess, so this area up here, the creatures are actively attacking me. So if that happens while you're in your factory, that is sad, but they might also actually attack your factory, I'm not entirely sure. But this way we can prevent that from happening, so that's really nice. Okay, so let's continue on with our quest. We have some quests for sensors logic. That is interesting. I'm not sure, again, what we're going to do with that, but we have all the required items to unlock that. We also can make some paint. I'll just do that manually off screen because, again, not really my thing. But then we are going to be expanding the town, and we just need a whole bunch of quartz, limestone, and fertilizer for that, all of which we now have automated. Since I don't expect to need that much paint, I'm just siphoning off some of my production scents that I already have. So for example, we are making bark over here. I'm just putting a little bit of that into a couple of buckets, and that will temporarily interrupt my rope production. But that's not going to be the end of the world. I probably don't need 2 of these barrels full of paint though. But as you can see, this fills up pretty quickly. And once this is done, we'll have some paint just in case we need it. Now, by the way, I've started to upgrade most of my roads as I'm running through my factory. Again, just because I can, and it also speeds up things like this. Turns out, by the way, there were 2 new quests with logic signals and things like that, and we have wireless signal receivers and senders, so that's interesting. We have levers, we have pressure sensors, AND gates, OR gates, AND/OR gates, counter gates, filter gates, buffer gates, data flip-flop. Basically, we have a whole bunch of things we could do with logic. I haven't found a reason to yet, but given how much stuff I've been unlocking, maybe we'll get to that point pretty quickly now. But anyway, that clears out all of the main quests, so we only have the expansion of our town left, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Now we're going to build something new again, and it is over at the scientist, apparently. So let's find out what the new thing is that we can go and build. So let's dump a whole bunch of you in here. Oh, apparently I cannot build with a carrier. That's interesting. Don't worry, I'll manage. I know, this is the hardest part about the game. Ooh, fancy. Alright then, well, that is tier 5 completed, and we have a whole bunch of new quests. However, there's also a couple of upgrades we can get at the monument. First and foremost, Machine Range 5 is going to make it available to build Puffy Sparks and Boomy Sparks, especially the last one. That sounds really interesting. Now, let's see, I have some of each, so I should be able to unlock that. There we go. Waypoint Rage 4 is just going to make me more mobile, so we can unlock that. That's great. Then we have Active Sparks Upgrade 2, which is going to be extremely useful. Do I have any Thousand Suns with me? Yes. That is going to allow me to carry around more sparks, so that is definitely going to be convenient considering the amount of switching I'm doing. And then this is going to allow me to get what? Another big slot. Okay, that's actually also going to make sure that I can carry around more dudes. So I can stock this up with, for example, carry sparks. These two are definitely the ones I'm using the most of. Then what do we have left? We have map views. This is going to allow me to provide a better overview of terrains and wireless logistics. I haven't really used the map views so far, but I guess that's a thing we can do. Now, what is this? Oh, look, a remote terrain management that needs a rock terran shell. It's the creature I think we saw before. And then we need some boomy sparks and raw ether. Honestly, we can't make any of this, but this will unlock the next thing. And this is just some upgrades for myself as well as more waypoints. Okay, well, then I think it is time to start collecting some more quests and, well, maybe we'll actually be able to expand from this region into a new biome or something. And as a side note, that means we have now completed tier 5. We're going to be working on tier 6. And I'm not sure how many tiers there are, probably around 10. I think I saw that somewhere. Seems like we're getting less quests here, but these are probably going to be more high demand ones. Well, it seems I was not wrong about my expectations. The village expansion quest now requires 1200 resources, and so does the other quest here, for example, that allows me to start making explosives. 1200 resources is quite a lot. So what I'm going to do is I am going to queue up some boxes for all the resources that I can already make. And then we're going to focus on two new things. So first of all, I can already unlock the upgrade to the loom. That is going to allow me to make fabric. And I also want to hunt down one of those Terrans, because that apparently is going to give me their shells. And that's going to unlock 3 new recipes as well. One thing that's interesting, now I have 3 slots available and I can carry around 30 of these sparks, is that I can actually kill one of these Bielephants without any casualties. You can kill them before he manages to drop down. There you go. So they can't actually fight back anymore. Okay, so let's see. We have the Rock Terran over here who is immune to the blunt and slashy damage that I can do with most of my sparks. So let's see, what type of damage does the rest do? I think we're gonna need those rock sparks, right? So let me check that out. Yeah, all of these do cutting or blunt, so that doesn't work. Scouty sparks don't do anything, so either the hauling sparks, weirdly enough, and they do have a pretty decent defense and offense, or the rocky spark that just do impact damage. Now, considering how expensive some of these are, actually it's not that bad. Let's see. I don't know, this is what I have on me, so why not just use a mix of both? Can I? Yeah, this works. Oh, he has a shield of some sort. That's interesting. And once they cut through that, he stuns himself and they get stunned. That's interesting. These guys did recover a lot quicker than these, though. Not so sure why that is. Where are you going? Where are you going? Oh. You are respawning your shell. That's what we're respawning. Okay. You get in there. Oh, that was actually not that bad in terms of timing. So you can throw some of the sparks in there after he gets done. Now, how much did I lose? Quite a few of the hauling sparks, actually. So that's that was an expensive trick. What did I get though? Did I get? Yeah, I actually got 2 of the shells that I needed for my quest. Now with those shells in pocket I can turn in this quest, and the most thing I'm interested in here is the coal recipe. I'm not sure what I will use small vials for. I think that it's an intermediate product. I don't see a reason to make quartz from limestone if I can just make quartz straight up from the same source I can make limestone. But anyway, yeah, this coal thing might be really interesting. So, interestingly enough, I've already completed the majority of the tier 6 quests now, but, well, I kind of skipped all the actual progress that I need to do. So, in order to make Puffy Sparks and Boomy Sparks, I'm going to need explosives and fabric. I'm also going to need explosive to complete the village expansion. and that means that that is going to be my next focus. I also need 80 hauling sparks, so I think I want to start mass producing those. Well, maybe not automate them fully, but at least set up a production center for that is not miles away from where I'm actually building. So I have a couple of these locations over here next to my ancient waypoint. So I cleared out some enemies over here. I actually think, hold on, that I might need to build one of those animal scarers over here. Probably something like this. So whenever I clear those out, they won't be respawning. And then I'm gonna set down one of these buildings I haven't actually built yet. Let's see. It's the... where is it? Where is it? Hold on. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. Oh, here. The Spark Workstation. So this is not the Spark Workbench that we've been using so far, but this is a larger version. We actually need one of these larger slots in order to be able to do anything with that. So let's set that up over here. We're gonna need Stumpy Sparks or stones. No, actually no. We are gonna make something else here. We are gonna make Hauling Sparks. So we need a whole bunch of Carry Sparks, and we're going to need a whole bunch of stone wheels. Doesn't have to be fancy, especially now I have access to these larger crates. These will fit 20 stacks or whatever I want to have in here. Is that true? Yeah, 20 stacks. And that is going to make things a lot easier in terms of just buffering this and have it run for a while without necessarily completely having to automate it. Like you can see over here, I put in 200 carry sparks. I have completely automated these because I'm using these in large quantities, but I don't think I'm ever going to be using these hauling sparks in super large quantities. And even then, I can now still, I think I queued up now the equivalent of about 100 of them, so that is going to be just fine, and these will start producing at a very slow rate. So this is why you do want to start these up as soon as possible if you do need larger amounts. But yeah, this will just keep running for the next couple of minutes while I build other stuff. Okie dokie, let's start with something simple. We need fabric and we need 3 bark and rope in order to make that. The rope itself needs leaves and 3 bark, so with these two things I can actually make the entire thing set up. Now I do have quite a few trees left that I can utilize for that, so I'm gonna clear this out and set up a little bit of a small production center for that. Okay, and considering we're going to be automating, we want to be optimizing, so I've done the math. So in order to make this loom make my fabric, I'm gonna produce 22.5 per minute, and that means I need 90 per minute tree bark, which is actually a full belt. Then well, half anyway. I also need 45 rope per minute, which is quite a bit. So we're gonna need about... well, exactly, actually, 4 of these looms making that. And if we have that, that means we are also going to need a full belt of leaves for that. We only need half a belt of bark, but that means that we still need a 3rd logger making some bark. Now, just like before, I have a 2-to-1 ratio. 2/3 of the carrying sparks this way are going to go into the logger carrying the leaves, and then the other 1/3 is going to pick up the bark. That should work like intended, and it should also not clog up because everyone is moving in the same direction. So that's going to be awesome. And then, of course, on the back, we are transporting the rope that we make here right into the loom. And all of that stuff is going to go into a very big barrel full of fabric. At least that's the plan. And there we go. It's actually amazing how many carrying sparks you can fit in a small setup like this. But as you can see, we already have a tiny little stack of fabric up and running, and if we ever produce too many, which we will probably, given how much time I need to build everything else, that is going to be compressed and hopefully give me a nice amount of points. Now for the explosives, what I need is some fertilizer and some limestone. Though neither of those are particularly complicated, but the same problem like before that I have now is that I don't really have any trees fairly close to where I am able to produce rock related stuff. So what I'm thinking is, because I have a whole bunch of rock over here, and I also have a couple of waypoints over here, you don't necessarily need to use these. Of course, you can also make your own, but you know, I might as well use what is already given to me. I'm thinking maybe it is time to set up a real nice train system that is also set up in such a way that I can easily expand it later on if I need to. Now, I'm not entirely sure yet how I'm going to do that, but let's make it up as we go along. Now, first and foremost, I kind of don't want to run my trains just on logs. I hope it might be more efficient to do that with coal, so let's do the math on that. Okay, so I have a couple of giant trees here on the bottom of my map. I am gonna clear this entire zone out and let's set up some coal production. Okay, so let's see. We have a furnace over here that is going to require some of those Theron items as well. So I needed to farm a few before I could actually build that. But let's see. If I place that down, it has an input port for the fuel as well as for the base materials. So I'm gonna use this to produce fuel, but I'm also going to take some fuel while doing that. So I'm wondering how efficient this is gonna be, but let's check this out. So if I set this up and I put a couple of sparks in there, this is going to produce 22.5 per minute. Now, if this is going to make 22.5 per minute and I need 3 wooden logs, that's almost a full path of log just for a single furnace. Okay, that's quite a bit. On the bright side, if I'm not mistaken, let me check this out, coal. Coal burns really slow, just at a rate of 2 per minute, while wooden logs burn at 12 per minute. So it takes 3 logs in order to make 1 coal. So it's still twice as efficient in terms of producing. However, that's not taking into account that I actually need to burn some coal as well in order to, you know, keep this fuel. So this is kind of going to be self-supplying, I guess, and then the overflow is going to go into my railroad system. So how about I set it up like this? Because now I can use both the logs for the input as well as for the fuel. And I'm going to prioritize making sure I use the logs for that. And if this doesn't work, we can always change it up. But for now, let's just check this out. I am going to put a temporary box over here, and just so I can see how this looks. So let's throw a couple of those in there. Then we are going to need some carry sparks. So, you know, one over there, and the rest of you can go over here for a second. I actually need to make sure this is doing something. There we go. So this is 90 per minute. Yes. This is going to go in here. Oh, this is just going to burn at 12 per minute. So actually, between the fuel requirement and the input requirement over here, I can run this entire thing from a single path without necessarily needing the overflow. I could utilize the coal that comes out in order to use that as fuel as well, but I actually think this just might make things more simple. So this is going to produce me 22.5 per minute, and, you know, I can make 2 of those. Okay, so I doubled up on the furnaces. This is going to give me 45 coal per minute, which feels like a fair amount, and that is going to allow me to stack up on that as well. Now, the real question is, what am I going to do with that coal? Because I am going to need to make some explosive, we're going to need to make some fertilizer as well as some limestone, so I think we're going to want to utilize this area, so lighting up these 2 waypoints is definitely going to be quite convenient, I think. And then maybe what I should do is... Interesting. I'm kind of inclined to make a large loop like this, because I also want to make sure I can utilize some of these building areas up here. So if we do all of that, I think it should be fairly efficient, and it also gives me an easier way to get around if I need, because I can just jump on the train. Okay, so I think I want to give this station a dual role. So first of all, this train is going to load up on coal, and the way I've set this up is that make sure that the initial coal is going to go into the locomotive, and then only any surplus coal is going to go in this wagon over here. That is going to be the one that we use to actually fuel our waypoints. That means that the trains will always keep driving first and foremost, and that we only charge waypoints if we have fuel to spare. Now, I'm not entirely sure yet what's the best way to set up these train stations, mostly because they're kind of bulky, so you want them sort of out of the way in case you want to, you know, build something in terms of an actual factory, but at the same time you don't want them too far away, because otherwise you kind of defeat the purpose of using a train. So, let's see, I have it set up over here with a couple of unloaders. These are gonna put stuff in a box. Now, this fits 80 coal, so that's enough to fuel a waypoint for 40 minutes, so that's plenty. And then there's just a couple of carriers running around here to make sure that, you know, the stuff gets to the waypoint. But other than that, this is really straightforward. I decided against using this waypoint, at least for the moment. Just keep it simple and make a nice little kind of circle around the edge of my wooden area. Okay, well, this took a minute, but I built an entire track, and honestly, it didn't take me that long. It's fairly straightforward to build these tracks as long as you have enough building materials. So I actually added some more planks, or some timber, or whatever it's called, into the mix, into my supply depots, but all in all, it was pretty straightforward. Now, let's see. over here you can see that I put a locomotive and identifier in the form of coal as well. So in case I'm ever gonna split up my roads, this locomotive can now easily be recognized as the coal one. So I guess there's just one more thing to do, and that is just put something in there, and it's going the wrong way. Hold on. I mean, I guess it technically doesn't matter in which direction it drives, but this just feels a lot more logical rather than it pushing its carts. Okay then, time to make some explosives and start working on, utilizing my train track, because otherwise I build it for nothing. Now, the fertilizer is gonna come, I think, from over here, because I have a couple of trees available there, and that also allows me to nicely tag onto this. I'm going to export them to this area over here, so I can use, for example, this giant rock in order to make the limestone, and then we have the explosive up and running. Okay, so we want to make some boomy sparks and puppy sparks. We have already the fabric, but we need the explosives. For explosives, we're gonna need fertilizer and limestone. I think I'm gonna use some of these trees over here to make some fertilizer, and then I can use a train split off over here to, get that off. And then we're gonna deliver that over here in this area, because I can make the limestone, for example, over here. And it has the additional benefit of making the boomy sparks quite accessible as well, because this is the location that I can craft them for the moment. So yeah, let's start with the fertilizer. And that means I'm gonna have to split the train track over here. This train track is gonna go down here to this station. This is going to be the station that supplies the fertilizer, and then it's gonna merge back up. And as long as I keep looping my trains in a circle, nothing should get stuck. Now, of course, that does mean that my train is going to do this entire loop, but I kind of don't want to have train tracks all over the place. And I think the throughput of a train is high enough for that not to matter. Now, there is a problem, though. If I have a train on this track, it needs fuel. And I don't want the fertilizer and coal to be muddled up, because, this is the exact same location in terms of where I'm loading up my coal as it is for the fertilizer. Okay, so let's see. This is where my fueling train stops. Now, I'm going to add in another station over here, and I'm going to have to split off this track somehow. And I think I could probably do that over here, so hold on. Does that work? Maybe. But I might just want to take this out for a second and reconnect that. And let's see. Nope, the train just went driving straight through, and that's because the modifier somehow disappeared from my train, because I removed it because I replaced it. Okay, that's not the best thing I've ever done, but no point in despairing, because honestly it doesn't matter that much, because now the train that doesn't have the modifier is confirmed to actually go in this direction. And that also means that I can do this and this. I am gonna add a few more carriers, of course, to the mix, because I just did that. But this is purely to refuel my trains, so that should be just fine. And just because of how long fuel lasts, at least the coal lasts, I think this is gonna be just fine. Actually, let's just make sure we have the fully utilized track. So adding a couple more to the mix should do the trick. Yeah, that looks about right. And this means my train can now be refueled from over here. So you can actually see it's already happening. Even though the cargo is not connected, that doesn't matter. It just needs to make sure the locomotive stops in the train stops, so it can be refueled. Alright, so I connected it up so it merges back in over here, and as you can see, that immediately meant that my train is now driving again, doing its full circle. So now I actually just need to make sure I have stuff to transport. And there we go, I have a logger and a couple of cutters making fertilizer, and that is gonna go into this train over here, just like we've done a couple of times before. Now, I just realized, though, that I'm gonna have to make a bypass here and here, alongside the actual bypass for the fertilizer itself, because otherwise every train is going to stop at my waypoints, and I don't want those trains to randomly start unloading stuff. So that is something to take into consideration. Honestly, the most interesting part about building these train tracks is the logistics involved in making sure that you didn't forget anything. Making the bypasses is actually really straightforward, but you do need to take into consideration that you need to put identifiers on these poles, so the trains actually know where to go. You need to make sure the trains themselves have those identifiers as well. And Remember, the identifiers only work in who should take the turn, so you also kind of need to sometimes redesign what these things look like, and every now and then we might need to fit in an additional pole like I've done over here, because here we have a splitter, but here we have a merger, and you can't do the same on a single pole. So all in all, that is quite a bit of work, to be honest, but not that much. It's far less daunting, for example, than building train tracks in Satisfactory. Anyway, I digress. We have a train stop over here that is now going to make sure we have somewhere to unload all of that fertilizer. So let's get it moving. And boy, do we have a lot of fertilizer. Anyway, let's see. Let's just dump a spark in here. I actually don't think it matters who's driving. Is it? It's going the wrong way again. Well, at least that answers the question, what happens if two trains are on the same track but they're going in opposite directions? Everything just comes to a standstill. So no epic explosions, I'm afraid, but you know, let's delete that train and then let's turn it around. There we go. That looks like it's going in the right direction, right? Let's give it some coal just to have it run for at least a little while. Oh, no, it shouldn't have that identifier, it should have that one. There we go. Okay. Like I said, the biggest challenge here is making sure you don't mess something up. Now, that means that this train can drive again, and that also means this train is driving again. Okay, order should be restored to the universe now. Oh man, this giant box of carry sparks is actually coming in real handy, because I'm burning through these things at an insane rate. Okay, so let's see. Let's talk about explosives. Explosives are going to be produced at 7.5 per minute, so that's going to need 4 times as much limestone, because this is a 4-to-1 ratio, and that means we need 30 limestone per minute in order to satisfy one of these workshops, and that means that we have 3 of them. That should be about as much as, well, exactly as much as a single of these giant rocks can produce. I think that's going to be plenty. That will give us, what is it, 22.5 explosives per minute? That sounds like a lot. I don't know if it is, but as you can see, I have plenty of fertilizer, and that also means that I need a 2-to-1 ratio for my supply, because we need twice as much limestone as we need fertilizer, so 2/3 are going to go and pick up the limestone from over here, and I'm adding a few compressors at the turnaround of the belt, basically, just to make sure that any surplus materials are going to be filtered out of the system and we keep the belts clean, so to speak. Okay, now let's see. Over here, I am going to need to get myself up on this mountain. Let me think where the elevators are. There we go. And that means I can set up this giant rock with a very simple drill. There we go. Why can't I build it? Oh, I just need to clear out a few things. Hold on. There we go. Limestone production up and running. And I really like these zip lines now, by the way, because this is just free logistics. I don't need to spend my precious little carriers on that. The gravity will just do its thing. So let's add a whole bunch more of these on our road over here. That is going to make sure we have some of those. And as you can see, we have our first explosives in production already. Okay, so with our explosives now in production, we can start checking out the 2 new sparks we can unlock. So the Boomy Spark and the Puffy Spark. Now actually I don't know where the Puffy Spark altar is. I haven't found it yet, but the Boomy one is actually right over here. So let's take a look. Well, this one looks really cute, to be honest, and I have a feeling we are gonna be able to explode things with it. Now, what do we need to do with it? Oh, let's check this out first, by the way. It's really good at offense, yep, but it's a one-time use, so this is just gonna explode enemies, I guess. Pretty cool, actually, if you want to farm something. It's a 1-to-1 ratio with the Rocky Spark, so it's not too expensive. We do need a fair amount of explosives, but you know, we can produce pretty much as much of that as we want. Okay, so we have the one we need. Let's see if we can also find the Puffy Spark. Okay, this has nothing to do with the Puffy Spark, but I found this biome over here. I was like, hey, that looks nice and green. Look at how many creatures there's over here. Holy baloney. Oh, it's actually kind of dangerous in here as well. Didn't realize that. Well, this might be food for thought for later, because there's juvenile elephants that actually attack me on sight. I haven't really found any resources in here. We do have these smaller ancient bases. Are you guys friendly? Let's hope you're friendly, because I actually don't know what happens if I die. But yeah, interesting biome right over here with some water and stuff. I was kind of hoping, well, fearing, to be fair, that things would just become more doomy and gloomy from now on. But no, this is nice and sparkly. What the bleep is this? This thing is ginormous. Well, we're gonna need some of those boomy sparks, I think, at some point. But for now, I'm still trying to find the puffy ones. Oh, never mind. I did all of this exploring. Of course, that's not gonna be useless, because I actually found some other shrines that I will need later on. But the Puffy Spark shrine was there right along. I already discovered it. I just completely forgot about it. Luckily, we have this ancient waypoint now that we can use to teleport around. Now, actually, I have no idea what this is supposed to do. So, it has a big bag on his head. I guess that's where the, I don't know, stuff goes in. Air? Let's see. Inflates, deflates, yeah, it turns into a disc, so it has a pretty decent capacity. A special spark that sucks in air, pulling items and small enemies. It's immune to gases and can store and expel them. Huh. Well, there's plenty of gases on the map, so I think that's probably going to be useful for something. It's gonna be interesting to figure out what it is, but that means I have a Buffy, Boomy, and a Buffy, not a Buffy. That's we're not trying to slay any vampires here, but anyway, we have fabric, we have explosives, and we have the hauling sparks in production. So let's complete some more quests. Mountain Spark R&D 2 is gonna give us the ability to actually make Puffy and Boomy Sparks in our own production center, so that's kind of nice. And let's see, what's the next quest that we're gonna get? Oh, he wants us to actually use the Puffy Spark to capture Miasma, so we can find out what we actually use these things for. Well, that sounds quite useful. Did I just see that correct? Hold on, we need a Frau sack? Where do we get those things from? I don't think I've seen these before. Is that the big dude that we just encountered? Do we actually need to kill one? Uh-oh. Well, first and foremost, let's also turn in the other quest that we were aiming for, because this was going to allow us to expand our village even further. Now, let's see. Do we get any building projects? Finish constructing the bridge. Hold on, where's the bridge? Doesn't show on my map, but supposedly it's over here. Is this a bridge? Ah, this is the bridge. Okay, well, let's see, you guys can work on this probably, right? Yeah, there we go. So, what is this then? Is this gonna allow us to... what's over here? Well, actually, I have an idea. Why don't we find out that in the next episode? Because honestly, this has been quite productive. We've set up a whole train network with several inputs and outputs, and we've completed most, if not the entirety, of, let's see, tier 6. I think these two quests are just to test out what the two new sparks do, but I think that's going to be nice to combine with some of the new things. We are also going to unlock 2 more new sparks in the next episode, I think, because we will need to make a slashy spark and a crashy spark. So I have no idea what the slashy spark sounds like, something that's good at fighting. What the crashy spark is going to do, I have no idea. Let's find out. Either way, if you're still here, you're awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.